And this is something that I ended up going with number three, really. At the top of that list is disturbing. That's the highest reason why I picked this. But my number three goes to actually multiple deaths by the shamrock, the
Mm-hmm.
silver shamrock mask in Halloween 3, when we end up hearing the tune. And this obviously is from Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, released in 1982. We see people putting on the masks and it kills them. It's basically caving in their head, and we see a bunch of gruesome, weird things happening where it's just like their heads turn into a rotting pumpkin basically,
Yeah.
and it just slowly squished. For me, whenever I first got around to seeing Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, this is something that stood out to me, and I also feel like is very iconic. I feel now, even though Halloween 3 ranks near the bottom of lists, I think as time has gone on, we've talked about this, that movie has had more and more and more of a cult following. It's one of our favorites here on Quality Check Podcast. Both you and I love this. And I also love these deaths because it's also very creepy. And the more I see this, the more it stands out and the more it has an impact on me. My number two is also the death of Michael Myers, but
Mm.
it comes to us from JC's, I don't know if it would be his least favorite, but what you said, it's Halloween 2, where we actually get the first death of Michael Myers. Actually, it may be the second, depending on what your outlook is for the shape and what happens at the end of Halloween. But Halloween 2, at the very end, the movie concludes with Michael Myers being shot in the eyes by Laurie Strode, literally two shots, one through each eye socket, and he lifts his head while blood is streaming from his eye holes in the mask, streaming on the mask, to which then Dr. Loomis then blows him up with Lori running out of the room. Then she's taking shelter behind some beds, and then we see Michael walking out of the room on fire before he collapses, and that's supposed to be his demise. That was John Carpenter's way of ending Michael Myers,
End it.
definitively saying he's dead, he's gone, don't bring him back. You wanted to bring him back. That's not what I wanted. John Carpenter had intended to do an anthology series. So, as he famously said, he ended up picking up a six-pack of beer, drank it all, and by the end of that six-pack, he had banged out the script for Halloween 2. This is something that I do love, this being the first time we see Michael, in a sense, eviscerated in so many different ways, both by Laurie and then also Dr. Loomis. I think that's a very full circle story of here. It's kind of like your Batman and Joker. You've got your Batman, the one played by Dr. Loomis, and his life mission is to find out, study, and figure out what kind of makes him tick. Sometimes with that, of the true bout of good versus evil, you both sides kind of cancel each other out. And then you've got Lori, who's scarred from this, and the rest of her life, she's running from this. So my number one goes to an iconic scene. This is something that, originally I thought, I don't know if I'm going to go with, but I feel like this one death tells us so much. It's Bob Sims getting
Mm.
stabbed and pinned against the
Mm-hmm.
wall in Halloween, the first Halloween, released in 1978. I feel like this shows us a couple of things. I keep going back to this thought and this train of thought. One, Michael is a beast to be able to take a knife, shove it through a guy while holding him up and pinning him to the wall. Like he's a man of strength. Speaking of that, precision on knowing where a two by four is. That way he could just shove the knife into a stud in the wall, knowing one, he's not going to slide down from lack of, there being strength holding him up from the wall itself. So Michael, there's a lot with this that we can
Well,
take away from this one scene. And it's also arguably one of the most iconic deaths
yeah.
from Michael ever. It would be Bob's death that I'm like, that scene is basically recreated or made in almost all of his films and Michael's movies that we see that. And I looked at icon, like really amazing iconic scenes, ones that stood out to me.
Hmm.
And yes, they are iconic in general, but I would say for me, that's my one through line. What's something that I look to and has had a lasting impact whenever I think about the Halloween franchise and Michael Myers?